Welcome back to it's the third series in our Inner Power series. Yes, ready to learn. Great attitude. In fact, that should be our attitude throughout life. We're ultimately here to learn, we're here to grow, we're here to come out of our smallness. Life is constantly challenging us to grow. So rather than seeing things as against us and why isn't it happening the way I wanted to? All of that chatter that goes through our head, wanting to control life, to slip into the student mindset that we are the student and life is the teacher. And the way that life teaches us is by reflecting us back to us all the time. Life actually has a pretty easy job in that regard. It's just created itself as a mirror of who we are and just is basically sitting back and waiting and observing and watching us kind of go through the trials and tribulations of figuring ourselves out. But life is the ultimate mirror. It's right there. And everything we experience is ultimately a reflection of us. We are always experiencing ourselves. No two people witness a situation the same way. There's the objective reality of what just happened, but our interpretation of it is what constitutes our reality. And so the person standing right next to you can have a very different take, subjective take on this reality in front of us. So the whole idea with mindfulness and meditation, everything we're doing here in the Inner Power series is to come out of the interpretation of what's happening, because an interpretation ultimately is a reaction to wanting things to be different or wanting to control things or even liking things, but then wanting to hold them in place. So we're constantly meddling with, we're interfering with the unfolding of life when we react to it from a place of expectation, from a place of control, from a place of judgment. And last session, this brings us back to today's session, we talked about inner clarity of how our mind is constantly judging and how if we are attached to our thoughts, thank you for bringing up that graphic, then there's no space around our thoughts. We believe them. We are so attached to each thought that it takes us on a roller coaster ride up and down and this truth and that truth and this is right and this is wrong. And that's just no way to live. It's very chaotic. It's very noisy. It drains our energy in a huge way. I would estimate, 95% of our energy goes towards managing and engaging and negotiating with our thoughts and the feelings that result of that. And that's what the topic is today. Every feeling starts with a thought. So today we're going to talk about the next stage of the 5 pillars of life mastery of inner power, which is inner peace. This is where we clear stuck feelings and dissolve energy blockages to help us come out of resistance to our emotions. So same thing. Remember the bell curve I drew last time is that we're also reacting to our thought, not just to our thoughts, but to our feelings. And ultimately, all thoughts have feelings behind them, underlying them. And so it's just more reactivity. And noticing, this was a game changer in my own evolution, is to notice that my feelings and my reaction to my feelings are 2 separate things. Just like we talked about last week, your thoughts and your reaction to thoughts, they're separate. You are not your thoughts. And just like that, we are not our feelings. We are, people want to know, we are the awareness of our thoughts and feelings and everything that's happening, our senses that are taking in so much input from the world around us. And to take that input in clearly and with a balanced mind and with a balanced body is what lets us see what actually is And so when we take action based on what actually is, we're in our most efficient state. We're in our clearest, most responsive state. Our energy is focused on not imaginary projections or expectations, and full of all the resistance that comes with that, all the anxiety that comes with that. There's really very little room for anxiety or fear in the present moment. And that's what being aware of your thoughts and being aware of your feelings, see how we're building up to our full body awareness, our full self-awareness. Um, Being aware is being present. You can't be aware of something that isn't happening right now. So even a thought about the future or anxiety or guilt or shame about the past, that's a thought that's happening right now and a feeling as a result of that thought. And so your awareness of that thought or feeling is still only happening now, even if the contents of that thought or feeling is referring to past or future. So the whole thing about self-awareness and is ultimately is being present. You can't be aware of anything that isn't happening right now. In this space of presence, as I just mentioned, there's very little room for fear and anxiety, things that cause us a lot of worry and trepidation, simply because you're responding to what actually is. So unless you're in a real danger situation, like you're staring the tiger in the eye, then you're just going to be responding to what is. And what is in today's life, thankfully, um, there's not a lot of hazards or dangers, and so there's really no reason to be afraid. And when a tough situation, dangerous situation appears, sometimes it does, um, our fight or flight response tends to kick in, and that's not even so. We're not even in reactivity to even that. We're responding in a very intuitive, deeply natural way, and that is even more hyper present because you need to, milliseconds. Uh, you need to be able to make a decision, and it's not even the rational mind anymore. So you can see how when we're in our most primal state of being, kind of like the rest of nature always is, that we're not really using our rational mind. We're not really thinking. We're just flowing, and we intuitively know what to do. And so what we're doing in this program over the 6 weeks is we're really unlocking that intuition again. Gut instinct, intuition, heart space, your inner knowing, your inner divinity, your higher self. These are all words that point to the same thing, and that is your intuition, your awareness of yourself, and your inner voice that is always responding to our environment. Our inner voice can't respond to the past or the future. It just doesn't work that way. It can only respond to what's in front of us. Hence, we need to declutter our mind and pull back the veil that's always kind of covering up and distorting what's in front of us, so that inner voice can speak more clearly and more loudly, and actually we're giving it real fuel, real inputs, and not the inputs of the mind of projections and all that noise. The inner voice doesn't respond to that. It shuts down. That voice is drowned out by all that. The noise in our head is much louder. And our inner voice is a subtle voice, right? And it can be amplified more, but it requires stillness. That's why in stillness we can hear it more loudly, and it kind of comes to life, if you will. And the head voices are, unfortunately, we have these layers of outside voices that we've been conditioned by and imprinted by just in the normal course of growing up. And that is to be accepted. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing we talk about here is about right or wrong. Everything is ultimately by design. Sometimes I talk about the secret design of life, and that is to accept that um, it's a kind of one of the big paradoxes of life is that by accepting the situation as it is, seeing it as it is, as we've been talking about, is the fastest course to come out of it, to create change. The first step to change is always acceptance. It's to be at peace with what's there. And so when we're trying to manipulate what's there and complaining about what's there, blaming others for what's there, we take ourselves out of this natural ability to really hear that guidance that's within us that tells us something resonates, something doesn't resonate. All we have to do in life is follow that sense of what resonates, right? Joseph Campbell called it follow your bliss. There's so much more behind it. This is not selfish. This is not self-centered. It doesn't lack empathy for others or compassion. And in fact, it's the opposite. It's standing in your true power, not being controlled by, outside events. You're at the mercy of these outside events if you're constantly reacting to them. But see them as they are, accept them as they are, and then take action from there. Of course, it sounds easier than it is because after probably a few decades of living in this conditioned reactive state, we tend to just instantly react to things. It happens so quickly that we really don't have a chance to observe things from a place of awareness. So that's what all of all these exercises, all these event series videos are about, is to learn to view things and experience things from your awareness. And I mentioned this last time. 30 to 50% of our awareness should always be with our body, our sensation, our experience. What we experience is primarily defined by how we feel, how those things make us feel. And the clearer we can see something, the clearer our inner voice can tell us whether or not something resonates or not. So what resonates there is our blueprint, right? Sometimes people ask, well, what is it that resonates? Well, it's that blueprint within us. Everyone has their own unique blueprint. And so looking at the exact same situation, it's going to resonate differently for person A versus person B. And that's okay. And once you really live from that place of your own resonance, then you'll no longer feel disturbed by person B who's experiencing things differently, who has their own different inner truth. And again, can't reiterate this enough. Your inner truth does not clash with the truth of others. That's how you can tell if it's a mental truth or it's a true inner truth. You can stand in the power of your own truth without feeling offended or getting defensive or wanting to convince others. Your inner truth is such a solid frequency. You can't, it's unwavering. And to live from that place, you can imagine just talking about it, how that must be a very different experience than to live by this monkey mind truth. That is always jumping from one thing to the next, constantly having to validate things and always looking to reinforce what it already believes. Because without that reinforcement, those thoughts are just so flippant and fickle. They jump from one thing to the next. So when we live through the mind, we have to work overtime, triple, double, triple, quadruple overtime to constantly reinforce that which we believe in, which we've decided to believe in. And it's really hard to maintain. A lot of energy goes into that. We're always looking around, what can we see that confirms what we already believe in. Hence, this is how all the search algorithms work, right? You're only going to find that which you already believe. Very rarely do we, especially when we're kind of really deep in the mind, seek out contrasting information, because that might put dents into our truth structure. And but when you're living from a place of awareness, you're not afraid of that contrast. You're not afraid of finding conflicting information or opposing information. And you're also not attached to just reiterating what you already believe in. You're, again, living and operating from a place of awareness, which is the power center within you, the inner power, that you don't have to waver from in order to get your life's guidance. Yes, please put your questions in the Q&A box to get immediate answers. Standing in your own true power, see as things really are, and take action. Yeah. A lot of people think that meditation and mindfulness is about just sitting in stillness. That's where we cultivate greater self-awareness and greater awareness of our body, which is the focus of today. We're going to work on that inner peace, and by doing some body scanning meditations later on. But it's actually about decluttering. Meditation is about amplifying the inner voice, decluttering all the head noises, and learning to live more according to nature. When you look out into nature, the squirrel jumping from one branch to the next isn't debating whether or not yesterday was a more beautiful day, or what his friends and family think of him. He just focuses on the branch and jumps, and gauging, the distance and the wind, or whatever circumstances it's in, that it needs to incorporate into making that good decision. But it's responding to what's there and not reacting to what it thinks should be there. Oh, that branch should be closer. Why do I have to jump so far? Or what if it breaks? And then all these things will happen in my life. Putting myself awfully deep into the squirrel's mind here. And but rather just to take clear action. So how do we get to a place where we can really stay connected to right now, to our awareness of a situation? It's not going to happen overnight. It's not a flip of a switch. It takes time to rewire ourselves, rewire our whole way of living from reacting to everything around us constantly, and even more so reacting to everything within us constantly and wanting it to be different. That's the main source of human suffering, is this constant reactivity to things, the judging of things as right or wrong, or good or bad. And that's kind of the duality of things that we find ourselves in. But if we want to come out of our misery, most of which is really self-generated, then we have to come out of that duality and allow ourselves to stand in that inner power within ourselves and become an observer of things happening. And then we have the choice to participate in things happening when we feel called to it. We're not just pulled into every situation. We have a choice. We have a discernment about us that says, well, I'm being called to something again. Your blueprint is calling you. Your inner voice is guiding you, and it's guiding you to take action. Sometimes it guides you to take non-action. No action is also a form of action if you feel called to that, and there's nothing wrong with that either. So many times we spend replaying a situation, and I should have done this, I should have done that, or we didn't act, and then we run around with regret that we should have done something. Sometimes inaction is also the right move to pull back, depending on where you are. And in this spiritual journey that we're on, this journey of unfolding and stepping into our fullness, our wholeness, that life wants us to be there, there are times when we need to distance ourselves because we're maybe more vulnerable. There are times maybe that we have to isolate because we're really going through something. Other times where we seek out help from like-minded and hopefully a supportive community. Sometimes it's just one friend that gets us through a tough situation. And that's okay. Everything is okay. What your essence, your being is asking for is always to the end of a balance, of peace, of healing, of betterment, of becoming more whole and stepping out of your neuroses and your anxiety and the worries and all of that is um, if you can catch yourself sooner coming out of that, then you return back to your natural state. Your natural state is to be at peace. It's to be joyful. Next week we're going to talk about inner joy and how to not only create and achieve that frequency, but how to maintain it through the daily challenges. But to get there, we need to become more aware, primarily of our thoughts and of our feelings. If we're always in reaction to our thoughts and feelings, we can't get to that place of joy because what are we giving our attention to? We're giving our attention to thoughts of anxiety, feelings of anxiety, of depression, all these things, and that we which give our attention to becomes our internal makeup. That becomes the content of our life, and those thoughts and feelings that we give our attention to, they all come with a weight. Even the happy ones, quote unquote, the happy, positive ones, they carry a weight. So the ultimate state of happiness is not necessarily having positive thoughts or happy thoughts as opposed to negative ones. There's another state beyond that. We'll talk about that next session. But for today's session, it's all about developing awareness around our sensations. So we have our beautiful senses, our six senses. When you drill deeper into ancient teachings, there's 21 senses. A sixth might be that your awareness of yourself in space. It gets a little esoteric, but it's pretty cool if you're into it. Look into it. But for the basic five senses that we have: hearing, seeing, touching, tasting, feeling, smelling, those are the inputs, and those are the inputs that we then have an experience with and from to our environment. It's our connective tissue, the things we perceive. And everything we perceive shows up as sensations in our body. So I'll walk you through the signal chain for just a minute. It takes some thinking at first to get a hang of this, but even if you don't, it's okay. It's more of an intellectual thing. Ultimately, we'll be practicing just scanning our body for sensations, and that's all that matters. What exactly is happening or what the root of those sensations is not that important. In fact, it's completely unimportant. All that matters is you're feeling a certain way, and to learn to observe and not react to that feeling is what creates awareness around yourself and your thoughts, between yourself and your thoughts. Because again, you are the awareness. You are not your thoughts and feelings. You're the awareness of your body, right? You are not your body. You're not your name. You're not your job. You're not your money. You're not your relationship. You're not your kids. You're not any of that. This is a kind of temporary. Some people say flesh suit is one of the funnier ways to describe it. But it's a mode of transportation for the time being, but it's not it. It's not us. We are not it. And so to learn to really recognize that's when you're living from a place of awareness. Okay, I'm aware of my body. I'm aware of my thoughts, of my feelings, my impact on the people around me, the words I'm speaking, the things I'm perceiving. All of that is experienced from a place of awareness. You are none of those things. You are the observer of those things, the witnessing presence of those things. Steve, God is everything or God is nothing. I see that as like Buddhism. All things are. Ooh, I feel that. That's great. Everything is part of one thing, whatever I call it. Mm-hmm. Yes. So whatever we call it, right? Labels are the thing that the mind loves to label and define and control and judge and steer. But that is what keeps us separate from things. This is how we start to, I described this last time, how we feel separate from our environment, from other people, from nature. We even have a word that there's nature and we're going into nature, or today I'm going to go hiking and to go into nature. Uh, and that's denying our fullest, deepest, true essence that we are nature. It's all an expression of nature. So when we're living through that mental lens, we just keep reinforcing separateness, separateness, separateness. I'm over here and the trees over there. I'm over here and the squirrels over there, by calling it saying that is a squirrel. Um, Often in the way, where does that come from is how we're raised. And a parent might say, that is a squirrel. A wise parent might say, that's what we call a squirrel. It's something that the name for it is a squirrel, which implies that it's the label of it is not the end all be all end all of it. It's not a self-contained thing, that has a definition. That's a living being, and we assign a label to it. So that would be a very different way to grow up. If anyone has that great fortune, then enjoy it with great gratitude. To be born into that type of environment would be pretty cool. But there's nothing to complain about. As always, everything's happening to make us more aware. And life will not relent. It won't stop mirroring ourselves back to us until we recognize that. And then once we recognize that, that's really when the fun starts. So a lot of what we're talking about, a lot of teachings are about, is to come out of the suffering, come out of the misery. And yes, that's a big part of it, because it's blocking our view. It's keeping us small. It's keeping us anxious and separate, and making us feel like it's us against the world. But there's a whole nother life when we come out of that, a life where we can actually start seeing things as they are and take efficient, clear action, a life that is completely fulfilling because we're open to new opportunities coming along that we were blocking out previously because we were just stuck in our thoughts of what should be happening. A life that is full of miracle because we're allowing new moments to come into our experience. New moments contain the unknown. Again, when we're living from the mind, the unknown is the worst. It's the worst enemy, and we have to plan our lives ahead, and we have to control and steer, make sure nothing unknown happens. Good Lord, if something unknown were to happen. But that unknown is our connection to source energy. It's our connection to creativity. It's our connection to no longer repeating the past, living actually right now on the bleeding edge of moving forward, of the unfolding, as opposed to clinging to what we already know, which is stale and old and ultimately dead. That unknown is what gives us life. And whenever we create a situation and we go into maintenance mode, like, okay, I've got a good situation going and I'm going to hang on to this now. I'm going to make sure it doesn't change. It should never change. Sooner or later, change will come, and it'll either come in the winds of change will blow on their own, and you might fight it, but the destruction is going to roll in to create change, or you'll create change yourself. Just because you're bored out of your mind. You can't keep living the same way. We're not designed that way. Life is not designed that way, to keep living the same circumstances with the same people in the same environments and thinking the same. We are always moving in motion, always evolving in constant evolution. And a good situation is allow it to be for as long as it wants to be. But when the winds of change come blowing, just recognize that, okay, that was a good run. And now there are new challenges to grow me some more. Again, adapting this student of life mindset, if you want to call it that, being set is maybe a better word. And that life wants you to grow and to come out of the the wounds, right? It wants you to heal. We want to learn and see what lessons are contained in each situation. Again, it's a reflection of who we are. So how we're interpreting the situation is what contains the lesson. And so the more aware we are of ourselves and how we react to things, the more we can come out of that reactivity. The more aware we are to things as they are, the more we can move out of reactivity and into responding. And in that response, we're present and we're aware. All right. I'm getting a note that it's time for a couple questions. Yes, thank you. Thanks for putting that up. I still struggle with my trauma and past experiences. It seems like they're buried deep in my subconscious mind. How can we heal from trauma we don't even realize exists? Ha! Great question. The good news is you're aware of it. You know it exists. And that's probably the biggest step. To be able to formulate that question means you're aware of something that's deep down. And so you're already close to having, being in a position to do something to release it. It's if it's truly subconscious and you're really not aware of it, that's where these old traumas create the most havoc. Where we just, they're at the root of when we react to something. When stimuli come in, inputs come in, that subconscious trauma, we immediately react to what we're sensing, and that just brings us back and leads us to repeat old patterns. Once you have the awareness of what, like you're describing, there's something deep inside that's reacting to the situation that feels triggered, that then you're in a prime position to do something about it and start working on whatever you're feeling triggered by. The meditation we'll do today will be a full body awareness scan to help you become more aware of when you feel triggered by something. So the moment you notice that something triggers you, it could even be just a hint, right, of awareness that's in there, but you notice it, that starts bringing in change, that starts bringing in a shift. You're slowly coming out of reactivity to the situation, instant reactivity, and more into awareness and clarity of like, okay, this is what's happening. This is how it's making me feel. How do I take action from here to remedy the situation, to look at myself and what is it about me that needs healing? So then you're operating from a place of awareness, greater and greater awareness. So meditate, and not just sitting down in the morning and evening if you can. That definitely helps. It's like going to the gym, right? You're doing focused awareness muscle work training. But also throughout the day, just maintain that state of awareness throughout the day, because that's when the situations happen that trigger us. If you sit down at the end of the day to review the day, that's fine. But that's when stuff has already got stuck in you. You've been walking around, somebody said something that rubbed you the wrong way, something happened that triggered you, and now you've already carried it with you for some hours before you get a chance to sit down and kind of release it. Much better is to notice it right when it happens. If you can notice the feeling triggered, a lot less of that energy, that triggering energy, will stick with you, and much more of it will just kind of arise and pass, which is the natural motion of feelings, thoughts and feelings, is to come and go. Again, we only create stuckness. Our thoughts get stuck, our feelings get stuck when we react to them, either by clinging to them if they're pleasant or resisting them when they're unpleasant. That's how the flow of energy of life that's going through us, we are the containing presence for all that life to go through our experience. That's how it gets stuck. If we remove ourselves or pull back from this reactivity, then life is just starting to flow with us and through us. And that's when we start to tap into this deeper trust and this deeper knowing. We're guided by inner voice at that point. We understand that things are happening as a reflection of us, as a lesson for us to learn, and so that we can come out of repeating old patterns. And it's just a gradual process, so we have to accept that. And there are many paradoxes. I'm going to do a separate workshop one day on paradoxes, because that's often what trips us up, right? Is that by wanting something, we're actually expressing lack. What is the energy behind wanting something, needing something? It's the energy of lack, and then the universe responds with even more lack. It's mirroring ourselves. We're seeing that lack all around us suddenly, and that amplifies it. And a lot of law of attraction talks about that as well. But to rather really come into be the generator of our own love, our own self-care, our self-love, our own confidence, our own knowing, our own purpose, then the world can't jerk us around anymore, where we become independent and really free. That's the ultimate word that describes the end state: freedom from that roller coaster. Yes, another question, please. Yes. Let me answer this question, and then I'll go back to the chat. How do you balance your responsibilities and obligations? Well, come back, please. Team, thank you. How do you balance your responsibilities and obligations while still prioritizing your own inner peace and well-being? So you have to assess your responsibilities and obligations. Often we overextend ourselves. Often we are people pleasers. Often we find ourselves doing something that doesn't really resonate. And therein lies the answer, right? Is we have to start from arranging our life in a way where we are engaging only with things that resonate. Now, you can politely navigate that terrain. It's not like shutting people out that no longer serve you or are not up to par. Everyone has some value. It's very rare that somebody's truly so toxic that you just need to completely shut them out and distance yourself. And even then, you have to look at yourself. Well, why do you feel so triggered? Is it them, or is there something in me? I remember a person in my building who triggered me endlessly, and I just thought he was the devil. And it took a while, but slowly I realized that he was my greatest teacher. He was one of the last big teachers of accepting a situation as it is, and then taking clear action from there, so that I could engage with this person on calls and their neighborhood meetings and such, that that judgment of this person fell away, and I was able to just experience them and see them for who they are. And that's somebody who still has a lot of pain in them and a lot of work ahead of them, and that they're the devil was replaced with compassion and understanding, and it didn't happen overnight, but eventually that did happen. And then I came to recognize that was a really deep lesson. And so often the people we think that are toxic, that trigger us in such a big way, are actually, again, just teachers to help us grow even more. Because it's only when we feel separate that we can judge and we can blame and we can point at people and hate them and think ill will. But when we're close and when we feel their humanity and when we're in a state of compassion, all of that just melts away. And so we're all love at our core. All right. Let me check that messages from the team. Okay. One more comment here before we get into today's meditation. Will there be any writing exercises part of this workshop? I find there's something helpful in putting things on paper for me. Yes, and you should be, I encourage everyone to do that anyway, every day on your own. That book right there, BU did not just because it wasn't a flippant idea that I just decided to sit down and just write a book. And I came after years of journaling, and all that journaling led into this. Many teachers talk about how their work on themselves is what then led to the teachings, and that was certainly the case with me. So journaling, spending even just 2 minutes, doesn't even have to be 5 or 10 or 15, even just 2 minutes. The moment you put pen on paper, and it should be, or pencil on paper, even better, something very earthy that connects you to, it's grounding, it's crystallizing. Even if you just write 2 sentences about, I feel like I have nothing to write about right now. If you wrote just that sentence, that's going to have a calibrating impact on you. That's going to have a healing when you develop the sensitivity um, as you go along. Then you even start to experience the healing quality of just a simple action like that. Because again, it's bringing you into the present moment. It's taking thoughts that are kind of nebulous and vague and just kind of floating and bouncing around in the monkey mind, and actually making them concrete, bringing them out onto paper, or even just speaking, having a talk with a friend. This is why, recapping the day with maybe a partner or a friend after work can be very powerful and healing if you use it to kind of process things, and not to distract you things. You can also distract yourself with that, with others, but using it to reflect, and there's a healing. The energy that might be pent up starts to leave you and become very concrete. So yes, I encourage everyone to journal and write every day, even just like it's just describe 2 sentences, and notice what you're feeling when you're doing that. The sensations of writing, the touch of your pen and pencil in your hand, pressing down on the paper, much better than using a laptop. If that's all you got, that's fine, but try to write by hand. That's how we've evolved. Computers is a new thing, and our brain evolved in unison with our hand and our environment, and we've just kind of evolved in the dexterity of things. And then specifically for these sessions, we'll have meditations and writing exercises in the coming weeks, to answer your question. That could have been just a 1-sentence answer, but I decided to go off-roading. So thank you. All right. I'm getting the message that we've got 15 minutes left, which is perfect length for our meditation. And I'm just going to check the chat here. Okay. All right. Those of you who were part of last week will remember the first part. This is a 2-part meditation, and we're going to build up over the weeks. If you were part of the Inner Power community this week, I posted a prompt or two about maintaining your daily 15 minutes. If you're not part of the community, I encourage you to join. It's very affordable and very fun, and we're still growing. So it's fun to be part of that kind of growing environment. And most importantly, it's a nurturing community. If we can put up our link to that, just so people get that free trial that we have as well. And that's really what I wish I'd had when the destruction was rolling in, and I was shedding the old skin and coming into a new place of awareness. Thank you. There it is. I wish I'd had people around me who understood, who were on a similar station in life, a similar path, and being able to not feel like I was losing my mind and I was going crazy. Which that's part of the experience, because the mind is going to throw the kitchen sink at you when you start coming out of it. So as we do these meditations and these exercises, you'll probably have a revolt. You'll feel the resistance of your and the momentum of your old way of doing things, and your mind will kind of uh, start whispering or sometimes screaming like, no, 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 this is all nonsense. Let's go back to the way we know, that we're familiar with. And I take it that those of you who are here are hopefully already past that stage, or at least aware of when the mind acts up and tells you otherwise. And again, that's the awareness to be able to say, yeah, I know that, thanks for that thought, mind, but I'm not taking it. I'm not accepting that one. That thought can just, you can let that one go again, let it pass. And that's the ultimate, that's the true choice that we have, right? If we're just reacting to thoughts and feelings, there's no really free will in the good sense of it. We're just reacting to things instantly. So if you want that free will, that choice, that is ultimately engaging with things from a place of awareness, and that's what free will is. All right. Oh yes, anyone interested in one-on-one coaching? Thanks for bringing it up. We can delve into these things more deeply. We can do energy healing. We can do other activities that really drill down and help you first find relief, and then find the power within to drive you forward. We might do some energy healing later in the course, just because it's so powerful and effective, and it really illuminates. But first, we kind of have to get our awareness of our thoughts and feelings down. So we'll be practicing that some more, starting now. All right. All right. So let's find a comfortable position. Might go a few minutes over. And we're going to do a two-part meditation, first starting with our breath awareness, and then we'll move into body awareness. And most of this is guided, so just follow along. Finding a comfortable position. Spine straight, bones stacked. And with your eyes and mouth closed, focus on the incoming and outgoing breath at the entrance of your nostrils. If you have trouble locating your breath, you may breathe slightly harder once or twice. And then return to natural breath, normal breath. Let the detail of your breath pull you in closer. Closer into the present moment. If your breath is shallow, let it be shallow. If it's deep, let it be deep. If it's more in the left nostril, let it be the left nostril. If it's more in the right nostril, let it be the right nostril. or if it's both nostrils, let it be both. Notice the temperature of the incoming breath. Notice the temperature of the outgoing breath. And notice if there's a difference. Notice the pace of the incoming breath. And notice the pace of the outgoing breath. And notice if there's a difference. And whenever you find that your mind has wandered, simply notice it with as little frustration as possible. Bring your attention back to the incoming and outgoing breath at the entrance of your nostrils. Now gradually bring your attention to the top of your head, your crown chakra. And notice any sensations that may arise. Might be a tickling sensation or a tingling sensation, or a prickly sensation or stinging sensation. It might be a feeling of lightness or of pressure, of hot or cold. Any sensation is a valid sensation. No need to look for a particular sensation. Simply observe what is. And if you feel no sensation at all, that's all right too. Slowly move your attention to your forehead. And come around to the left side of your head. And around to the back of the head. And on the right side of the head. Always noticing any sensations that may arise. Now move your attention into your right eye socket. And over to the bridge of your nose. And on to the left eye socket. And moving down to your left cheek. And over to your lips. And on to the right cheek. And down to your chin. Always noticing any sensations that may arise. And moving down to the front of your throat. And the left side of your neck. And the back of your neck. And the right side of your neck. Moving down into your right shoulder. And down into your right upper arm, first the bicep. And around to the tricep. Down into the back of your elbow. And around to the inside of your elbow. And down to the inside of your forearm. And around to the back of your forearm. And down into the back of your hand. And around to the palm. And push your attention deep into your fingers, all the way to the tips. Always noticing any sensations that may arise. Now bring your attention to your left shoulder. And down into your left upper arm, first the bicep, then the tricep, now down into the back of your elbow, and the inside of your elbow, the inside of your forearm, and around to the back of your forearm, into the back of your hand, around to the palm, and into your fingers, all the way to the tips. Always noticing any sensations that may arise. Now bring your attention to your left upper back and slowly, evenly scan left to right. Moving down to your right middle back, slowly, evenly scan right to left. Down to your left lower back, slowly, evenly scan left to right. Always noticing any sensations that may arise. Now bring your attention to your left upper chest, the area above your heart. Slowly, evenly scan left to right, moving down to your right rib cage. Slowly, evenly scan right to left, down to your lower left stomach. Slowly, evenly scan left to right, always noticing any sensations that may arise. Moving your attention down into your root chakra, the area above your pubic bone. Move your attention over to your left hip. And the left butt cheek. And on to the right butt cheek. And the right hip. Moving down into your right upper leg. First the front. And then the back. Moving down into the back of your knee. And around to the front of your knee. Moving down into your right shin. And around to the calf. And now starting with the heel, slowly, evenly scan across the bottom of your foot. Come around to the top of your foot. Now push your attention deep into your toes, all the way to the tips. Always noticing any sensations that may arise. Now bring your attention to your left upper leg, first the front, and then the back, Down into the back of your knee. And the front of the knee. And down into your shin. And around to the calf. And starting with the heel, slowly, evenly scan across the bottom of your foot. And around to the top of the foot. And put your attention deep into your toes, all the way to the tips. Always noticing any sensations that may arise. Now return your attention to the incoming and outgoing breath at the entrance of your nostrils. And maintaining that connection to your body, you may gradually blink open your eyes. Notice your environment. Notice yourself in your environment. Notice the energy in your body. Notice your aliveness. So this week's homework assignment is to do what we just did. If you could do it twice a day, even better, but certainly once, preferably in the morning. And those 15, 20 minutes of starting with your breath for 3 to 5 minutes, and then the remainder scanning your body will work wonders in starting to live from your awareness and really live the way we're supposed to. I wish you all a wonderful rest of your weekend and start of your week, wherever you are. And we'll see you next time. Bless.